Hi, everybody. Welcome to GW Center for Integrative Medicine Zoom channel, Zoom YouTube channel, Zoom podcast. I'm your co-host, Dr. Kogan, Medical Director of the Center, Associate Professor of Medicine at GW University Medical Center. Please subscribe to this channel if you're interested in anything health-related, particularly if you're interested in a kind of a more researched, alternative, holistic ways of thinking about your health, living longer. Today's news. So I was reading news today, and then this article came across my phone. So this is from CNN, titled "Cancer Incidence Rising Among Adults Under Age of 50. New report finds leading doctors puzzled and worried." So definitely worried and definitely not puzzled whatsoever. I've already talked about this topic on this YouTube channel, the fact that this is almost exclusively related to the rapid rise of toxins in our environment. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but what I want to show you, so this article goes into some details of particular people, and then it goes into very interesting kind of domain. And of course, I'll put the link to this article in the description. But the whole article talks about how, doctors such as myself have not seen in the past patients in the 20s, 30s come in with a pretty aggressive cancers like a breast cancer in the 20s, right? So, when I was in training, this would have been a highly unlikely anomaly, and now it's a pretty typical occurrence. And and the whole article positions as if, well, we don't know why it's happening. No, it's nonsense. We know for sure. The data is all there. The information has been available for at least 15, 20 years to see the trend, very similarly how the uptick in the toxins in the environment. It's also been very clear that we know exactly which toxins are doing this. And then articles like this one, of course, never going to touch up on this. Why? Well, it's not a sanction topic, right? So if somehow this becomes a common knowledge featured by every major outlet in the country, it's going to appear that the government's doing absolutely nothing, which is totally true. It's also going to appear that, these toxins that are getting put out completely uncontrolled and not really monitored. And that's also true. So let me read you something from Dr. Cohen's book. So this is Non-Toxic. I already talked about this great book on the channel. At some point, I need to bring Dr. Cohen in for a long podcast. I think I'm just still deciding how to position this, because I think I just want to respect her time. If I bring her in, we're going to have so many questions that we can talk for many, many hours. But this is just from the beginning, from first chapter, and kind of talks about, so every day the United States imports about 45 million pounds of synthetic chemicals. Each year, this is critical, about 1,000 new chemicals put in the use, and only 5 chemicals are removed for concern of toxicity. And by the way, just to recall everybody, in US, we have no policy of screening toxins for screening chemicals for being toxic. It is the burden on the society. So the society has to prove that something is toxic. If you're in Europe or the rest of the world, and if you're a chemical company, you have to prove safety. We don't have to prove safety in the United States. It is a known fact. We as a society have to prove toxicity, and this translates to exactly what I just read, which is basically a dramatic shift towards a lot more toxins than a lot more new chemicals with no known. We just don't know which ones are toxic, which are not. So 15 new polymers are patented every week, and over 1,000 endocrine disrupting chemical exists. And then the rest of the article goes to sort of describe specific, what happens with particular toxins. So is the rest of the book. Again, the book is Non-Toxic, and doctors Ali Cohen and Frederick Saul. So, okay, we've already talked a little bit upon sort of, okay, we can't really change this, right? So we can't change all these toxins being spilled into the environment. But what we can change keeping an eye on what we expose to. So removing the toxic foods from our own chain of command, from our own eating, stop eating large fish, no tuna, no swordfish, so nothing that has a lot of mercury, because mercury is a very carcinogenic. It's also very damaging to the neurological system. Trying to get as much organic food as possible, at least follow the clean 15 dirty dozen, which is which foods to include, which ones to remove. I will put the environmental working group link into the description here. Making sure that if there's anything about your own system, let's say you're not detoxing well for whatever reason, maybe you're not methylating well, make sure this is optimized. I feel like I need to probably do a whole hour on methylation at some point, but there's a lot of other good videos, but at some point I'll talk about that more. Make sure that not only which sort of weaknesses your system has and how to optimize them, but also know your strength and how to capitalize on it, right? So if you're really sweating a lot and you like to sweat and you really like the heat, well, sauna would be really good for you. And if the heat makes you really sick, well, actually, could be that sauna is also very good for you. You're just really having a hard time detoxing early. But, so you have to sort of learn which steps would be good for you to use. And obviously then the last one, or sort of the bigger one in the scheme of what can you do on a day-to-day basis, is really to make sure that every possible toxin that of you eliminating. Again, cosmetics, lawn, and anything in a backyard that can be used on a lawn that's toxic. Talk to your neighbors if they're using something toxic, and you can educate them. Give them the book, give them a free book. I've done that. I've given people book and say, look, think about what you're doing to yourself, because you're in the long run, it's not only you. That's another big point. You using something on your lawn, it's not just you. You're going to be using it for the neighbors, right? And then also educating. I mean, the data is all there. You really need to look at this from the angle of suspicion. I feel like we know about all this topic. We know that there's tons of toxins, but we're sort of like, well, it's not going to touch us or whatever, or it'll touch us when we're 70 and 80. No, it will not. It will touch us starting in teenage years. And, it could lead to cancers in 20s and 30s. By 40s and 50s, those chances of cancers dramatically increase compared to what it used. And and I'm very clear that probably at least 50%, if not 70 or 80% of all these new cancers are just basically the fact that our bodies are constantly fighting over dramatic upload and increase of toxins. By the way, you may have heard me say about this before on this channel. I consider stress a toxin. I consider poor sleep a toxin. I consider emotional trauma, any kind of abuse towards you a toxin, because your body in certain ways is going to process these things as toxins, and they may not be direct chemical toxins, but they're still going to impact your hormonal system. They're going to impact your cellular function, your mitochondrial function in many ways similar to how toxins do. So with that, I know, grim topic. Is there bright light? I mean, is there some silver lining here? Yes, I think the part of the silver lining is we have a lot more tools to detox. We have a lot more tools to understand what we're exposed to. We have a lot more better tests that you can say, well, what's my body exposed to? I'm going to give you a very simple recent case, very young physician in her 30s, aggressive liver cancer, dramatic levels of toxins identified, because we just sort of were wondering what's going on. Like, how come somebody this young ends up with all this stuff, and yeah, I mean, we did full comprehensive toxicity assessment, and some of her, I'm not going to be specific just so that make sure that preserve privacy of this person, but she had not just one or two, it was like 4 different toxins that were very concerning, and all of them were carcinogens. Where she got them, we're sort of figuring this out, but so that's how we do have some capacity, some power to say, can we take this problem back and analyze it and somehow prevent it or treat it better, right? So she actually has been treated in combination of standard chemotherapy and also with removing the toxins, supporting the detox, and hopefully that she'll be just fine and she'll go into remission and stay there. And of course you should wonder, well, the chemotherapy is also toxic. Well, unfortunately, once cancers occur, it's not like your prevention of cancer would be a whole lot easier than treating it. And so that's the problem. And yes, you will end up potentially on some toxic chemicals, which you will have to detox later, but it's a short period of time. Most of this therapeutic agents are not designed to be taken forever, versus the toxins you expose to could be. Some of the toxins stay in the body for decades. The lead, for example, has 30-year half-life in the bones. So stay safe, make sure you assess your environment, make sure you remove whatever toxins you possibly can, help others to do the same, educate, and learn how your system operates. I'll see you soon. I'll post all the links in. As I said, I also going to put the link to non-toxic book. And again, as I said, I'm definitely going to try to bring Dr. Cohen sometime soon. We actually already brought her to our GW podcast, the GW Office of Integrative Medicine podcast. So I'm going to put the link there to that podcast, so that cross-linking all these things. So if you want to learn more about her work, you can. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.